friends, and welcome to another video. Today it's time for a book haul. So you know how people go online shopping and buy a lot of clothes? Well, that's me, but instead of clothes I buy a lot of books. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm staring at the pile right now and I'm like, I bought around 18 books, so I decided to divide this video into chapters. The books that I purchased, the books that came in my book boxes, and my audiobooks. I'm just super excited to show you guys the books that I bought because I have a lot of new releases and special editions. So if you like these kind of videos, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell so you never miss another video of me again. Let's get started. The first book I want to share with you guys is a book that is talked about a lot on Bookstagram and BookTube. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. The story takes place in France, 1714. We follow a woman called Addie who is desperate, and in her desperation she makes a deal with the devil. She can live forever but be remembered by none. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is a dazzling adventure across centuries and continents, across history and art, about a young woman learning how far she will go to leave her mark on the world. This is one of those books that I bought because I just saw a lot of posts about it, so Instagram made me do it. And the book has been nominated by Goodreads, I think in the genre fantasy, but I'm not entirely sure. So I just wanted to buy it and review it for myself. This is a special edition from Waterstones. I just love the cover with the bronze and the blue, and this is how the book looks without a dust jacket. And there's even some art. The next book is high on my TBR. I wanted this for a very long time and I decided to buy it. So it's Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. Ow! Ah, I think I have a paper cut. I'm cut by Jack the Ripper. That's so creepy. Our main character is a young lady called Audrey who secretly apprentices in forensics. And she gets drawn into the investigation of the serial killer Jack the Ripper. And at the back it says, I was the girl who loved the Ripper. It just sounds really intriguing. I heard it being described as a Nancy Drew kind of book. So if you don't know her, that reference makes no sense at all. But it is a female detective that solves mysterious cases, and this book got compared to that, and that just really intrigues me because I love a good mystery with a strong female as a main character. And honestly, I just really love every book that takes place in the 19th century of London. I think that's just such a cool time period, so I can't wait to read this book. Next up is Witches of Ash and Ruin by E. Latimer. First of all, look at the cover. I love this. It's just a red cover with some letters and a big black raven in the middle, and then at the back there's this spooky witchy symbol which says, the gods are hunting, an ancient evil will wake, the witches are gathering. The reason I really wanted to buy this book is because of her main character. She is a 17-year-old girl who is called Dana, and in the aftermath of being outed as a bisexual in a conservative town and the return of her biological mother, who is hardly a parent, she develops OCD. And on top of that, she is finally becoming a full witch. But this gets complicated by the arrival of another coven. Then a witch gets murdered, along with the blood symbol of the Butcher of Manchester, which is apparently an infamous serial killer. It's described as a sweeping, mesmerizing story of dark magic and brutal mythology set against a backdrop of contemporary Ireland. Honestly, I just want to start reading now because this sounds amazing. Next up is The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. This is a newly released book and his second book because his debut novel was The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. As you can tell by the sticky tabs, I have already read this book. I will be doing a book review because I think it deserves a book review on its own. in a separate video, and I'm not going to tell you anything more about what I thought of the book. You will just have to watch that video, but I am going to tell you what the book is about. Let me start by saying that I only purchased this book because it is a special edition and it just looks so gorgeous, so I just wanted to buy it. But now I'm actually really happy that I did, because this is also a nominee for the best mystery thriller of 2020 on Goodreads. I love everything about this book. I mean, the cover looks great, there are beautiful sprayed edges, there's a map, it's been signed by the author, and there's even some bonus material exclusive to this Waterstone special edition. The story takes place in 1634, and we are on a ship taking a voyage from the Dutch East Indies from Batavia to Amsterdam, which is the Netherlands, and that's where I come from. But that was actually really funny because there were a lot of Dutch names in this book. Samuel Pepys, the world's greatest detective, is on board, but he is a prisoner, and his friend Aaron Hayes, his bodyguard, is trying to prove his friend's innocence. And then there's also a lot of other characters on the ship that you will get to know on this voyage. As soon as they start the voyage, a lot of strange things are happening. A symbol appears on the sail, a dead leper stalks the decks, and livestock is slaughtered in the night. Could a demon be responsible for their misfortunes? Definitely an interesting and intriguing read that will stick with you after you've finished it. You might even want to reread it. That's all I'm gonna say for now. Next is a book that was released back in 2016. It is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I think a lot of people will know this book, but it is actually a book that I never read, and when I ask people about their favorite fantasy series, a lot of them tell me to read Nevernight, so I've decided to just go for it and buy the first book. It is described as a Japanese steampunk novel with mythic creatures, civil unrest, and a strong female protagonist. Our main character is called Mia, who is the daughter of an executed traitor. Her gift is that she can talk to shadows, and this leads her to the door of a retired killer. She becomes an apprentice assassin and eventually joins the Blades of the Lady of Blessed Murder. But a killer is loose within the church's halls. The bloody secrets of Mia's past return to haunt her, and a plot to bring down the entire congregation is unfolding in the shadows she so loves. I'll finally be able to read Nevernight, and can I just say that I absolutely love the art style on this cover. Also, there's a map, and we all love books that have maps. Next up is a Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Again, not a new release. This was released back in 2017, but I just really need to read it, so I decided to buy it. What I really like about this edition is the way it sparkles, and then at the back it has a ticket to the Caraval. So it says, admit 1 to be used once to gain entrance into Caraval. Main gates close at midnight. Anyone who arrives later than this will not be able to participate or win this year's prize of 1 wish. It kind of reminds me of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I don't know if it has any resemblance to it, but just by reading that, it reminds me of it. And we have another map, a legendary competition, a mesmerizing romance, an unbreakable bond between 2 sisters. We follow Scarlett, who lives on a tiny island with her sister Tella and her cruel father. Her father has arranged a marriage for her, and Scarlett thinks her dreams of seeing Caraval are over. But her sister, with help of a mysterious sailor, makes it happen, and she can go to Caraval. Once there, Tella gets kidnapped by the mastermind organizer Legend. It turns out that this season's Caraval revolves around Tella, her sister, and whoever finds her first is the winner. So of course Scarlett joins in the search, and she has to find her sister within 5 nights or she disappears forever. I heard some mixed things about Caraval. A lot of people say that the first book is the best and that book 2 and 3 are just more of the same, but then again there are also people that say that this is an awesome trilogy, so I'll just have to see for myself. Next up is another new release, but an old book, because it is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is a special edition designed by the House of Mina Lima. For those of you that do not know them, these are 2 artists called Eduardo Lima and then Fedora Mina, who have designed all the paper replicas for the Harry Potter movies and also the Fantastic Beasts franchise. And they've decided to make these special edition books of the entire series. They also do classic edition books with beautiful illustrations. They are really talented, and if you want a in-depth look of this book, I will leave that video up in the info card. But as you can see, there are a lot of special pages, a lot of artwork, and it's just really fun to have a different edition of a book that you love. Next is a book that was sent to me by the author, and it is The Magic Fix by Mark Montanaro. The world as we know it, so that is a world with elves, humans, pixies, goblins, ogres, and trolls, needs a fix because it is falling apart. Alright, and there's also a dragon. It just sounds quirky and different, and I'm excited to give it a go. Let's move on to the books that came in my book boxes. First up is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. I had to be patient with this one because I ordered the Fairy Loot special edition and it took a while to get to me, but it's finally here and I just think this is a gorgeous edition, so I'm really happy with it. I enjoyed Serpent and Dove, the first book, a lot, and I'm really excited to start Blood and Honey. If you haven't read Serpent and Dove before reading Blood and Honey, I highly advise that you do because the story starts off at the end of the first book, if that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure if explaining what the book is about is a spoiler, but just in case, if you haven't read Serpent and Dove, maybe skip this bit. Hi! Good. Lou and Reed are reunited, but they are chased by Morgaine, and they are forced to turn to the Queen of the Dames Rouge, who is a sworn enemy of Lou's coven, for help. And of course, there's a lot of magic because we have Lou, who is a witch, and then Reed with his newfound power that he needs to explore. Because this is an exclusive Fairy Loot edition, this came signed by the author, and there's a beautiful map of Belterra. I'm really excited to start reading this book, although I heard a lot of mixed reviews. There were a lot of people that were disappointed by the sequel, but I still have high hopes and I can't wait to read it. Next is Fable by Adrienne Young. So I have 2 editions, but that is not intentional. I heard great things about Fable and I decided to buy the book, and then in that same month it came in my Fairy Loot box. So now I have the normal edition and the special edition. We follow Fable, who is a 17-year-old and a daughter of a powerful trader in the Narrows. Her father leaves her on an island and she somehow has to survive by stealing food, sleeping under the stars, and diving to the bottom of the sea to find objects which she can trade for money. Her only goal is getting off the island and finding her father. Of course, there's a twist and her journey is filled with intrigue, romance, and adventure. This book was part of my 24-hour reading vlog. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars and I'm looking forward to the sequel. The next book came in my Once Upon a Book Club box. I believe it was the September box, but because of all the shipping delays, it arrived in October. It is The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult. I already read this book because I already did my Once Upon a Book Club box unboxing, and I always read the book, open the gifts, and then put everything back so I can make that video. I gave this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a unique way of writing and I think you are either gonna like it or dislike it, but I absolutely loved it. The main character is called Dawn Edelstein and she is in a plane crash, and in that moment her life flashes before her eyes, but she doesn't see her husband and her daughter but her former lover from when she was a student in archaeology and was doing an internship in Egypt. Turns out this man, Wyatt Armstrong, is still in Egypt and she decides to go there. The book is literally about 2 ways in life, making a decision. The book is a really weird mix between all kinds of interesting subjects like ancient Egypt, death, a death doula, end of life doula, which was a new concept for me. And then there's also a part about quantum mechanics. When you've read this book, you've really learned something about different topics and also about yourself. And I just really like the fact that the book has an open ending. Next is a bit of a different book because it is a book from Disney called Villains: The Wicked Collection. This came in my Disney Villains special box from Magical Suitcase. I absolutely love it and I thought it would be fun to share it within my book haul. It has every villain from Disney. The amount of hearts represents the amount of evilness, and it just explains the motive of every villain. And it also tells you about their sidekicks. It just seems like a really fun book and I love the art style. The final book that came in one of my book boxes is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is the Barnes & Noble's edition and it came in a vampire special box from Magical Suitcase. There's a beautiful cover, a red ribbon, and some black sprayed edges. I think we all know Dracula because it is a classic, but I just never read the original story, so I'm really excited that I finally get to do that. And one of his famous quotes, "Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make." I also purchased some audiobooks. I have a subscription with Audible, so I get a credit each month and I saved some credits, so I bought 3 books. First is A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Gabaldon. I'm currently reading the entire Outlander series and this is the 6th book in the series. The story takes place between 1773 and 1776 in America on Fraser's Ridge. This book has a lot of political unrest and especially Jamie has to make some tough choices. He is in between the British crown and the freedom of the New World. The prequel, The Fairy Cross, was kind of slow and not a lot of things happened, but I can tell you in A Breath of Snow and Ashes, a lot happens. You kind of feel sorry for the Frasers because they are going through a lot. So yes, I'll definitely purchase the next book in the series, An Echo in the Bone. The next audiobook I purchased is The Institute by Stephen King. I was looking for a spooky October read and I never read something by Stephen King before, so I made the choice to buy The Institute. Without spoiling too much, it is about a sensitive boy called Luke who is kidnapped and taken to this building that is called the Institute, where he is imprisoned with other kids with special talents. Again, I already read this book and reviewed it, so if you're interested, I will leave that video up in the info cards. It's not for the faint-hearted, but I don't think that a book from Stephen King ever is. It is a thriller with horror elements and an interesting set of characters. The final book that I purchased on Audible is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. This is the first novel in the Age of Madness trilogy. I was looking for a good fantasy read and his books get high ratings on Goodreads. The story takes place in a world called Adua, which is a mix between the old and the new, magic and industry. There's a mad hill woman, a curse, and mages. And I'm not entirely sure who the main character is, but I heard that it is a brutal book with a large cast of characters. It just sounds really intriguing and I'm excited to dive into this adult fantasy series. And those are all the books in my book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other book recommendations, leave them in the comments down below. And if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and let's stay in touch.